Hello, hello. As you come in, send me your hello so I know who's on with us. We always have our early birds. I shouldn't say all early birds, our on time birds. Hi, Jay. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Mario. Hello. How are you guys? It's been a minute, but I'm back. Hi, Tavon. How are you? Chad, welcome. Thank you guys for joining us and coming on in. I hear a phone beeping. So, which phone have I not turned off here? Let me do that. This one while I wait. Hi, Jason. Howard. Hey. Hi, O'Shane. Good night. Everybody's coming in. How are you guys? Surprise, surprise. I'm here today. Everybody good? Everybody having a good weekend so far? Must be a special night. Hey, yes, it's a special night, Mario. Every night's a special night around here. But thank you. It's just been a lot going on. So it's been really challenging to pull myself away to be here. But I'm glad I could do this tonight. And I'm going to try to do more. It's not that I don't want to be here. It's just that, there's only so much a person can do. So Ray has been good to hold it down for us. Hi, Hanif. How are you? Good to have you guys. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming in. As usual, we're going to have lots of good information for you guys. We're going to give it a couple more minutes, give our little straggler some time to come in. How's the weather everywhere? I'm hot. I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm hot and I cannot turn the fan on because you're going to hear it. So if you see me fanning back here, it's just so that I'm not as hot. All right. Hey, Natty from Chelsea's Best Farm. It's been a while. You're keeping track, Mario? Come on. He said, I've been here since Dr. Denny. That is so true. That is so true. You're keeping track. Okay. I have to say, I have to do better. I have to do better. So, wow. Okay. We have a good little group going here. So, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, guys. And yes, I'm back. Hi, Randy. Good night. Hey, Clavon. Nice to see you guys. And I don't have my glasses. So if I'm like squinting, it's because I can't read some stuff. So you guys just kind of bear with me here. But it's good to be back. Thank you guys for having me back. I've missed hanging out with you guys, although I've been in the background sometimes when I can. So I do see a couple names here and there. But again, I'm happy to be back. We have a great topic for you today. Let's see what's our topic today. Let me put that up for you guys. All right, so today we're going to be talking about genetics, which is actually goes along with quite a few of our chats the last several weeks because we talked about the goats, opening up the country for the goats to come in. We've had several discussions about AI and semen and all kinds of stuff. So we're just going to keep that discussion going. And we have a very honored guest for you guys tonight. I don't know if you guys remembered, I think it was probably about in 2020, we had another guest from this location and things have changed and things have been, so we're going to give you an update and actually give you more details and more information about what's going on. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Mr. David Caldwell. Hi, Carwell. I'm sorry. Hi, David. How are you? Welcome, welcome. It is so good to have you. Welcome to our little family relaxed chat. So David was actually apologizing to me, guys. He's like, I'm in my truck. I'm like, hey, we don't care. We don't care where you are. We're just happy that you're here. And the fact that you're doing it from your truck even means more to us, okay? That you'll do whatever it takes to come and hang out with us. And we definitely appreciate it. So to get us started, give us a little bit of background about yourself. Who you are, what do you do, what's your specialty? Give us a little bit of information like that.
Uh, Hello, everybody. Like you said, my name is David Carwell. I live in Arkansas, in the lower central part of the United States. Uh, I have a excuse me. I have a master's degree in reproductive physiology from Louisiana State University, and we specialize in semen collection, embryo transfer, in vitro fertilization, and other assisted reproductive techniques. in livestock. And so we really specialize more in small ruminants, which would be sheep and goats. I did do a bunch of cattle work when I was in grad school. I did do quite a bit of equine work, but once I got out of grad school, just mainly focused on the sheep and goats. We used to do quite a bit of white-tailed deer. Uh, that's a pretty big business here in the United States for people on hunting ranches. But that kind of fluctuates, to be honest. It's more of a leisure thing. And so it has its ups and downs. And believe it or not, oil prices actually kind of predict how much exotic animal work you will do, to be honest with you. And so, but we've been around since about 2011. And so the company B&D Genetics started out with two of us. And as of last year, it's just me now, the D and the B&D with David. And so in the past, we had successfully shipped semen internationally to several countries, including Europe. We have sent to Jamaica before, Australia, and we had several almost go into Canada. And there's been other countries, I can't remember all of them exactly, but one of the first multi-country export centers that there was B&D Genetics. And so uh, my ex-wife has a center called Smart Reproduction, and so she does international export for semen and embryos. And then we are also qualified to do semen and embryo exports as we get certified coming up in the following year. And so, but yeah, great to be on here. Great to ask any questions. I know I can see at the bottom there's a chat. I know they have a list of questions for me to talk to you. I'm a very informal person, and so I don't mind if people ask a question at the bottom. We can just have a discussion, and I'll answer it to the best of my knowledge so that everyone can understand, if that's okay with you.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. That's the way, that's our format anyway. We're very, very informal. So we just put, notes together just so we can have, some kind of discussion laid out. But for the most part, that's just, notes, it doesn't have to go that way. But yeah, as people ask questions, we definitely throw them out there for you. So not to worry, that's exactly how we'll do it. All right.
correct.
Also, guys, I'll let David tell you where he is right now.
So I'm actually in Nebraska, and I'm at the American Boar Goat Association National Show.
Uh-huh.
And so we have this every year in June. That's why I'm in my truck. Uh, but it is the largest boar goat show that we have every year. And numbers are actually, for the way the economy and the way the prices are on everything, numbers are actually up this year. I can't give you the exact number of animals that are entered in the show, but it's somewhere in the 700 range, I think they said. I may be wrong, but it should be somewhere around there. And so this is a week-long event. Tomorrow we start with we have a commercial meat goat evaluation class that we're going to start tomorrow, which is our first time ever. I'm actually in charge of that.
Nice.
And so it's a show to where the kids are able to show their animal, and then we're actually going to take them to the slaughter facility and grade the carcasses and then compare the two. And so we also have the other show weather class tomorrow, and then we move into the full blood and the percentage animals as you go throughout the week. And so it's extremely hot here too, believe it or not. And so maybe not Jamaica hot, but it's hot to me.
It's hot.
So
It's hot. We have a little bit of a breeze, so it's not too bad, but it does get hot sometimes. Okay, awesome. So there are a lot of boar goats in Jamaica, and a lot of people are all about boar goats. And I think, are you a judge too as well? I think I saw that somewhere that you're a judge for boar goats.
that's correct. I've been an ABGA judge since I was 18. And so I turned 35 back in April. So I've been doing it a little while.
All right. So you're all things boar goat.
Somewhat.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Okay. So B&D specializes in embryo transfer, artificial insemination, and what else do you guys specialize in?
We do semen collection, semen freezing, and then we do, not that it applies to you guys really, but we do in vitro fertilization here within the United States.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that really wouldn't apply to what you could do down there. That's for more problem animals,
Okay.
and they do it in beef cattle a lot, and they do export IVF embryos. But as far as goats, that's probably way off, to be honest with
Okay.
you. And
All right.
so that's more of a newer technology that's been developed in the goats. But for you guys, mainly for the conversation, the artificial insemination,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're ready for embryo collection as much, but we can definitely talk about it. And for using fresh semen for AI, I think is what really would benefit you the most. And so,
Okay. So let's break all of those down a little bit. Let's start with artificial insemination because you said that's probably the easy way in for us as a country. So tell us a little bit more about what it is, how it's done, what are the benefits of doing it, and yeah, let's just go ahead and start there, and we'll go from there.
uh, so artificial insemination, obviously, if you kind of break it down, the words is you're inseminating the animal or actually putting semen within another animal. And by us as the practitioner or you, the farmer doing it, you're doing it artificially. You're not naturally doing it. The buck. So I say buck and doe here. You might call them a ram. It's the same thing. Or the male animal is
Mm-hmm.
not actually doing the breeding. And so this was developed, back early on. Uh, one of my big projects in grad school was frozen semen with bull semen from all the way from the late 1950s.
And it
And
was still
so
viable?
so that was always the question, was how long can semen last in liquid nitrogen? So frozen semen is stored in liquid nitrogen. Liquid nitrogen is negative. So y'all talking Celsius, so correct? You talk Celsius or Fahrenheit?
They talk Celsius, I talk Fahrenheit. So
Okay,
you
so
can talk Fahrenheit.
negative 196 Celsius or negative 320 Fahrenheit.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so at a negative temperature that cold, there's really no biological activity. So literally you're actually stopping time.
Mm.
And so by using glycerol, which is a cryo preservation agent within the semen, we can actually preserve these cells, freeze them, and store them in this liquid product. And so, like you said, people have always asked, well, how long does semen last in liquid nitrogen? It's never been proven. In my master's project, we proved that as long as it is stored in the right conditions,
Mhm.
successfully frozen and stored, and then stored continuously at the right temperature, there's really no difference in time, really, at all.
Okay. Well,
And
that's
so we had calves born from 1956. The first calf born from frozen semen in England was in 1951. And so from 1956 to that would have been 2009 when I did my project,
Mhm.
we were still able to get acceptable pregnancy rates when you compared it with semen that was froze all the way within the past few years when I was there.
Okay. So that makes it good for traveling then. So if I want to get semen from one country to another country,
And,
as long as it's frozen at the right temperature and liquid nitrogen, I'm good. Is that what we're saying then?
and we have liquid nitrogen tanks and vessels that are able to store it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're even able to ship these in these cryogenic tanks. That's obviously how we get semen in one in my truck right now.
Oh, nice.
Actually,
Show and tell. I love
so
it.
actually, I hate to be that way, but there's actually one
No,
right
that's
there.
perfect.
And
That's
so,
perfect. That's
but
perfect. We like
actually,
that.
this tank right here, this is a smaller version,
Okay.
but you can see it comes within the pad. It's got these padding thing in here, and it goes in here.
Mm-hmm.
And this could actually be shipped to Jamaica just like this. This is how it would come. And so
Okay.
this is a small version, but that is able to successfully store semen and be able to move. And just like you said, it's full of semen right now for customers. Whether
Okay.
I bring it in my truck to Nebraska, 12 hours away, or I put it in a FedEx plane and send it
Mm-hmm.
on a plane to you, it wouldn't take very long, but within a day, get to Jamaica.
Nice.
And
Okay.
so,
How much semen can fit in that? Like, how much semen can we fit in that size container?
this is a smaller one. I don't know if I can get it open or not. This is a smaller one. This one right here is going to hold, somewhere around 100 units if you fill it all the way up. This is not really a
Okay.
This is more of a smaller, more of a medium-sized one. We can
Okay.
get them in all sizes. I think the ones we usually send over can hold probably close to 660 is what they technically call it, but you can get them anywhere from 600 all the way up to 2,500
Okay.
units,
Okay.
and that's a lot of semen. And
Mm-hmm.
so a breeding dose is one straw. One straw is a breeding dose, and so that would breed quite a few females.
Okay.
So,
All right. So actually, we have a couple questions already coming in. David, is flushing the same as embryos?
so flushing is a slang term.
Mm-hmm.
Embryo collection is the correct term. So,
Okay.
but the process of actually putting the fluid through the uterus and removing the embryos, we say we're flushing the embryos out. That's a slang like term. So that just tends to get used. A lot of people in the United States will call them eggs. Well, they're not really eggs. They're actually either fertilized embryos or they're unfertilized oocytes. So an egg is technically something that's not fertilized, so you don't really want that. But that's a slang term, and I apologize about that. But
No, that's okay. Hey, we're here to learn. It's okay. All
uh,
right.
yeah, I see
So
the XC20. That's correct.
mhm,
Those are so you can ship those are more of a storage and holding tank. We have now what they make is called a double. And so these double tanks are able to hold in a vapor phase a lot longer. And then when they get to their location, you can fill them and they become a storage tank. And
okay.
so it's already heavy enough, but the bigger the tank and the fuller it is full of the liquid, it becomes a problem. And if any of these tanks ever leak in that they get turned over,
Mhm.
it really won't damage the product, but the carriers don't like to see white gas coming from a tank that they don't understand anything about.
No, they don't.
And so they don't understand what semen is. They don't understand what tanks are, but they know that white smoke is not a good thing. They think
Yeah.
so.
So true. So true. And the freight, I'm my background is in the freight industry too. So I have know a
Right,
little bit about that as well. All right.
right.
So Mario is asking, the 660 can hold in a CX20? Mario knows his stuff around here.
Yeah, yeah. That's if it's completely full, 10 straws to a cane. I don't like to pack them that tight. That means you don't have a lot of room to move them around within the canister.
Mhm.
But what they quote, and he's right. I mean, I believe I said something like that earlier. They're just they can hold a various amount, but I don't like to pack them too tight because then you can't do anything with them really, and that's
Okay.
at a maximum level. So
All right. And Howard is asking, are the unit straws when you were
yes, yes. So I don't have. I wish I had some examples, but they will be they will be a half a cc. In the United States, we use a half a cc.
Mhm.
For international, they're more going to it's a quarter cc. That's more of a European and Australian thing.
Okay.
Uh, but they will be in a plastic semen straw, and that is considered a unit. That is correct.
Okay. Very good. Maximilian, I see your question, but we're getting there in 2 seconds. Okay. So, what are some of the benefits and or pros and cons of doing AI?
So some of the benefits are actually able to, we're at the very end. We're going to touch on importing the animals. So
Mhm.
the cost per breeding unit or the cost per genetics is probably cheaper using frozen semen. I'll give you an example that here in the country, in the Angus world, they have the top of the line Angus bulls. You can't afford them. They might cost over $1 million. But as a farmer or a rancher, I can go buy frozen semen on that bull for $25 a unit. I can't buy that bull, but I can buy his genetics for 25, sometimes up to $40 a unit, and still have access to those genetics. And so, for people being out of country, buying more expensive genetics or higher quality genetics is probably been deemed more valuable to buy them through frozen semen. And so the technique and the skill would probably be the con, depending on if you know how to do it or not.
Okay.
The synchronization, we've talked about this with some people down there that some of the veterinarians are trained, but some of them are not.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually not a very difficult process once you understand how it works and once you understand the technique.
Mm-hmm.
But the cons do require it's labor intensive. It does require handling of the animals for the synchronization process, and then you have to have equipment in order to do it. However, like I said, if you compare it to we've got 100 animals, 100 does, we want to breed to 5 or 6 different bucks to get different genetics, so we want the best we can get. The bucks may cost $10,000 a piece. It's $50,000. Not before, that's before landed, before everything has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
When you could have bought semen for $50 to $100 a straw, plus freight.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so freight's not going to cost you very much on a semen tank to go to Jamaica. It's just not very far, so it's actually pretty advantageous. So
Okay.
cost per breeding unit, I think, and the potential for genetics is going to be your major thing to look at on what you're able to do.
Awesome. Now, you did mention that it's not that hard, but as long as you know what you're doing and you have the right equipment. So, if a farmer is so inclined, they could go get their own training and get their own equipment and possibly do it themselves.
It
Maybe.
is possible. It
Okay.
is possible. There's 2 types of artificial insemination. There's transcervical, and that's probably more, I think, from what I understand on what you guys do down there. And there's also laparoscopic. And so transcervical would be where you're actually using a speculum to where you actually go through the vagina and
Mm-hmm.
visualize the cervix, and you actually use the AI gun to go through the cervix and deposit the semen.
Mm-hmm.
Laparoscopic would be where you do a semi-surgical process, um, and where you're actually able to invert the animals. They're asleep when you do this. You invert them, and you actually put the semen directly within the uterus and with the needle. And so this is actually a lot better way to do things. This is what I do on farm here. This
Mm-hmm.
is all we really do. We train for transcervical on farm, but for efficiency and for success rate, laparoscopy is proven to be by far superior for pregnancy rates overall. And so this was kind of invented. I don't know how much y'all know about the anatomy of a sheep, but the cervix on a sheep is so twisted in a way that it does not allow you to transverse or go straight into the uterus with anything.
Okay. Okay.
And some of the farmers on the channel, if they have cattle, you actually palpate rectally when you AI a cow. You go in with your hand and you grab the cervix with your hand and you palpate and you move the AI gun through the cervix. Obviously, in a goat, we can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot put our hand in there and rectally palpate. Obviously, in a sheep, we cannot do that. And once they found out that the anatomy of a sheep cervix was so backwards, they had to figure out another way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, laparoscopic AI was invented mainly for the sheep industry, and it's went on to the goats too, just because the success rate is so much higher.
Okay. Is the cost about the same to do transcervical versus laparoscopic? Let me make sure I pronounce that word correctly.
Laparoscopic, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say just we just don't do much of it on farm for a charge. We do train people to do it, but I would say the cost is probably double. But the pregnancy rates are also going to be 30 points higher on
Yeah.
average.
Okay. All right. I see Terrence has the same question that I have. Do you need a vet to do AI? Or in other words, can farmers be trained up to do their own AI?
To do laparoscopic AI, you would probably need a veterinarian within the country there. I
Mm-hmm.
work with veterinarians here. You have to use anesthesia to do that, to do laparoscopic, so you would need to work with the veterinarian there. Now, to do
Okay.
transcervical, no, you do not. But for
Okay.
laparoscopic under anesthesia, yes.
For the record, we will use vets. We do not intend to do any of these processes by
Yeah,
ourselves.
yeah, I understand.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to go to Maximilian's question. What's the main difference between AI and embryo transfer in terms of viability? Which has the greater of the success rate?
So when you think about artificial insemination and embryo transfer, artificial insemination really places more emphasis on the male genetics because we have one straw of semen and we put it across all these females.
Mhm.
Embryo collection puts more emphasis on the female. And so in embryo transfer collection, a goat normally has 2 to 3 to 4 ovulations or 4 babies. We give them during the process a series of drugs in order to super ovulate them. We want them to have a lot of embryos if possible.
Mhm.
So that puts more emphasis on the female to produce more. And so the drugs that we give them are called follicle stimulating hormone. And so, and then we do the collection and then we do the transfer. So it's really 2 totally different things with 2 totally different goals. The success rate, I would say, can vary. It can vary with anything. And like I told Mr. Ray last time when we talked, what people have to understand is that the skill and technique to doing something, there obviously is something to doing that. Management of the herd is very, very crucial.
Mhm.
Management of the herd prior and after is very crucial to the success rate. And so that includes everything from a nutrition program, parasite management program, if you have a problem there, mineral program, overall health status is very important. And so I don't care what you do, if you don't have a good management program in place or take care of everything like you're supposed to, it's not going to work. It doesn't matter who does it.
Mhm.
And so, but embryo, like I said, we go back the difference between AI and embryo transfer. Laparoscopic AI, we really see on average about 70 to 73, 74% pregnancy rates. If you
Mhm.
look back overall, when you compare my record overall personally, we've obviously been higher than that. We've been lower than that.
Okay.
The variable, as I said, is the animal. The unit is the animal, the variability, and the farm itself is the variable.
Mhm.
We go on farm and do it because me, my technicians, and the equipment, everything we use is not different. We do not change. But when we go to Miss Trudy's farm or we go to Ray's farm or this Maximilian's farm, that's 3 different variables, and I'm the same. I'm very consistent. I'm the same. And so we have to keep that in mind and try to do everything the same everywhere we go.
Okay.
Embryo transfer can vary too. The quality of the embryos that you get at collection can affect the pregnancy rates. The recipients that you use can greatly affect the pregnancy rates. But we like to see a 60% pregnancy rate on embryo transfer.
Okay.
If that answers the question, that's a very difficult one to answer uh, in a very short time frame. That can get very deep.
So we need to bring you back again so you can talk more about that. How about
It
that?
can get very deep.
Okay. All right. Awesome. At least you get us started there. But one thing I do want to go back to, which is very important, and if you can spend just a little bit more time in this area, is herd management. Because it doesn't make any sense that you invest all this money to do semen, to do embryo transfer, to do whatever you're doing, and your herd isn't up to par, for one of a better way to say it. Okay. So let's go back and review the things that you said are important things for farmers to keep in mind to make sure that their herd is A1 perfect ready for any one of these processes.
Right. So again, I'm glad you brought this back up because I don't know if you know what I mean by the word hedge, but when you hedge your bet or you try to put some type of insurance on what you're doing,
Mhm.
the management of your program is kind of what you're doing. But remember, too, these are mainly just general housekeeping, general animal husbandry, things that you should be doing. But we do see some issues here in the United States with people that want to do things and they want to just not pay attention to this over here, and it affects everything else. It's the micro things or the small things that will have the biggest impact on what you're doing overall. So, general nutrition, overall health, if they're in a good body condition, we don't want them overly fat. We don't want them too under condition. We just want a good, normal, healthy animal. I don't know. I would assume that in Jamaica, rainy, hot, Caribbean type weather, parasites can be an issue. As long as you're able to keep that under control, and I don't mean completely, but something to where it's manageable, to where it's not affecting them negatively, that shouldn't be a problem. And so remember that when these animals are under malnourished or they have a high parasite load or something like that, their system is completely stressed. And then you're trying to make them do something by synchronizing them into heat and make them get pregnant. Their goal is to maintain and stay alive and ensure the self. They're not going to do that. And so that would be part of herd management. A mineral program, it's the micro things, these micro minerals, as long as they're adequate, they're pretty good. We do a lot. We put a lot of mineral in our feed here. And when they get fed every day, we ensure that they get the right amounts, because goats are they're very picky, as you all know. Everybody knows that. I don't know why we deal with goats, but we do. But having a free choice mineral supplementation specifically for goats, too, is kind of key. They do have some different requirements than other animals. And a vaccination program. Seriously, generally, overall speaking, just a general animal husbandry program is key. You don't have to do anything special. So
we've touched on just about all of these different areas and different aspects of the iGoat chat. So everybody has heard this at least once. And I'll go ahead and tell you one thing that Dr. Young has always told us is, don't change anything. Whatever the animal is used to, let them stay in that pattern. Don't change anything. Don't stress them out. Don't, make anything different. Just keep them in that same pattern. And that has actually worked for us too. So, okay. So guys, good husbandry. If you want to do AI or embryo transfer or anything like that, if you're going to spend that money, you definitely want to make sure that your animals are in good condition. So guess what? Guess what, guys? We have a surprise. You guys ready for this? Yes. Yeah. No?
I don't want to be. Seriously?
Hey guys, we have a surprise.
Seriously?
Yes. Everybody say hello to Ray.
That was not the plan.
Oh yeah. It's a plan. We go on the fly. We go on the fly here. We're going to fly.
I only got a few minutes.
We'll take the few minutes. So we know you always have good input and insight. So we'll take the few minutes, and then if you have to go, you'll go. David and I are good, but we thought we'd add you in. We don't want you to feel left out. All right. So you gonna say hi to David?
Hey folks. Hey David, how are you?
Mr. Ray, how are you?
Is Trudy treating you right?
So far, so good.
Oh yeah? Questions are not too tough?
No, I haven't received my plane ticket to come down yet, though, so I'm still waiting on that.
Okay.
That comes at the end.
You gotta work on that.
All right, so I'm going to go back to some of these questions here. So would flushing still be necessary for embryo transfers?
So no, you can actually, for you in the country, you can actually get frozen embryos that have already been collected within the United States. And frozen embryos ship the same way that frozen semen does. And you can just implant frozen embryos. And so that would be if you want to buy genetics from here in the United States and send them down there, you can put them in frozen. There's a little bit different process in doing that. We still do it semi-surgical. We still do it under anesthesia. So the farmer themselves would not be able to do this. This will be something like the veterinarian does, or someone who the technician trains them just like to do the laparoscopic AI. You can do embryo collection on your own females within country. That would not matter, obviously, as far as what you're doing. But the frozen ones can be done, and they're shipped again, same container.
Okay.
So
All right. Awesome. All right. Let's see. Would a good option then be to ensure that you get superior genetics from male AI offsprings, use them to breed females, then use embryo transfer on those females?
a good option to be ensured you get superior genetics from LAIs. I'm trying to think of that question. I'm trying to
Yeah.
put that in my head. Hang on. I know kind of what he's asking, but let me think. So he wants to use male. He wants superior.
Or maybe he could restate the question, might be a good idea.
I think what he's saying is he wants to use frozen semen, breed females, and then take the females from that group and do embryo transfer with those, or embryo collection with those. And so, I mean, that's kind of up to you. You have to decide on what you want to do. And I was talking to Mr. Ray, I guess it was last week, and so I believe they're using high input dairy semen on this last go around. I believe, is that what you're doing, Mr. Ray? You're trying to increase your milk, your dairy herd.
Yes,
And
that's
so,
correct.
so you have to remember too that taking superior semen and putting it in just a goat, let's just say you just put it in a goat, you've only got about 50% of those genetics in the offspring coming out. So do I theoretically think that those offspring are worth doing an embryo collection project? Probably not. I think you would probably have to go another time with that genetic package back with the other semen and keep going on down the road. You guys, your F1 offspring, that would be your first cross, would probably not be good enough. And I this is for everybody. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about for anything that you do, would probably not be genetically superior enough to invest that kind of money into. You probably want to get to F2 to F3 before you get your genetic line built up before you do that.
Okay. So you mentioned 50% genetics if we do AI. So if we do embryo transfer, you're getting more of 100% genetics, right?
Well, what I mean by 50 is that you're getting in the offspring, the male side, the imported genetics, he would only be worth 50%. Mm-hmm. And so if you were to take, that's what I meant by the F1 cross. And so again, an example would be buck A from, let's just say, superior buck A to Jamaica goat. We'll just call it a Jamaica goat. That offspring with your F1 would be 50% superior to 50% Jamaica goat. Uh-huh. And then if we go back to, let's just say you pick out another superior goat to go on that cross, then you would be 75% more higher genetics to 25% Jamaica native goat. Okay. And then if you go one more time, now you're never going to get to 100 because you didn't start at 100, but you're increasing your numbers as you go. Okay. And so that's what I meant. I hope that's not too confusing. So
no.
I think Jamaicans have a very good grasp of the crossing and the hybrid breeding system because it happens a lot. It's the main thing in Jamaica is to do the cross, whether it's Boer to native or Nubian to native or Boer native Nubian. Yeah, there's some ideal hybrid animals in Jamaica. Well, I think for meat, but the milk thing is where we need some work.
Right. And you may find out that you take what we call more of our United States version of our Boer goat and put it on your hybrid goat. Your first cross may be the best one you get.
Yeah.
You never know. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of crosses here in the United States with the goats. We do in beef cattle a lot with our Angus Brahman crosses, Brangus with our Brahman Herefords. We're far superior. We're farther along in the beef cattle with those hybrids than what you're talking about with the goats than what we are.
Okay.
Okay. Does the season of the year or ambient temperature affect conception rate?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And so I was telling Miss Trudy, but I think this is before we got online, that obviously goats are short day breeders within the United States. So we don't, I guess with you guys being more closer to the equator, that's going to change things in that we're short day breeders in that in the fall time of the year, as the days get shorter, our goats naturally tend to cycle. So our fertility rates are generally a little higher at that time. But as we've gone along, we've kind of broke the mold and we breed almost year round now. Now, do they cycle naturally year round? Not all of them. But we force them to do breeding through synchronization, through seeders, and through our drugs that we can give them. We can force them to breed out of season. Temperature, obviously, heat stress can play a factor on anything, and so we do see that if we have good synchronization as far as heat rates, the animals actually coming into heat in the hot terms. And as far as from an embryo program, if we get good quality embryos in the summertime here, when it's hot, we do have pretty good success. Okay. The biggest issue would be that our embryo quality sometimes isn't the highest in the heat of the year.
Okay. All right. Is 0% normal for cervical AI?
Well, it can certainly happen, obviously. I would say, like I said, doing the procedure, there's so many factors that go through it as far as the technique and getting it done and viability of the semen and thawing and this and that. And it sounds like a lot, but once you actually kind of get it in your head, kind of how to do it, it's almost like a recipe that you follow. Just like you guys tell me how to cook jerk chicken, you probably just spit it out like that. This is how you do it, and this and this. And to me, it's a big deal. But you can obviously get 0 if some things go wrong. If the semen was thawed and it comes in contact with tap water and kills the sperm, obviously you're going to get 0. I mean, there are some things. Is it normal across the board? You shouldn't have that. No, you have a problem somewhere that you need to address.
Okay. Now, Dr. Young is that fresh or frozen embryos? And I don't remember what that comment was to, but I think that was a while back she asked that. So it'll probably circle. Dr. Young, if you want to remind us what we were talking about, and we can answer that question for you. Goat Herderman wants to know, what is this process? How can I get semen and embryos here to me in Jamaica?
So I haven't looked here just recently, but the USDA website has all the APHIS guidelines, and I haven't spoke to Dr. Watson or Dr. Martin about the regulations for semen and embryos. They have one for live animals, obviously, and it actually got changed the other day, believe it or not. It was uploaded in February, and it actually has changed again. And so there is a process that you have to follow. You have to go with a certified center that within the United States, we have to be certified through the USDA in order to do this. We go through a terrestrial code through the OIE, which covers quite a few countries. And so there is a lot of regulations on our end in order to make sure that we are approved in order to even start the process. And so I'll be glad to help you to look at that part, and we can kind of go from there. But I do need to find out, and I haven't seen it, what Jamaica's regulations are on semen and embryos, because the protocols are different. Okay. They are different for live animal versus semen and embryos.
Okay. Yeah, that's something we'll have to look into as we go down the road. That's going to be not a iGoat chat session answer. All right. So here's Dr. Young's questions. The success rate for fresh versus frozen embryo is the same, and differences. What's the same? What's the differences?
Good question. 10%. 10% difference in fresh and frozen overall. About 10 to 15% difference. So when you freeze anything, embryos and or sperm, you never get 100% recovery of the viable cells. And so when you look at frozen sperm or semen that's been frozen and thawed under a microscope, you can see there's a few dead ones. You can see the dead ones under there because they're not moving. But unfortunately, an embryo doesn't move. And so we can look at the cell structure itself, and whether it's viable or not, we can't really tell. But we know there's a process that you do in order to freeze them. Now, obviously, if they explode when you thaw them, or there's a crack within the actual zona pellucida or the actual outer shell, there's generally a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But embryos are pretty cryo tolerant. And so my biggest answer to that would be 10 to 15% difference, frozen being lower than fresh embryos.
Okay. All right. We've had a lot of good questions here. So we in the discussions that we've talked about so far, it came up about fresh semen collection. So I know for us in the small ruminant sector, I don't think it's very common. I think we do it in our large, like cows and stuff. But for small ruminants, I've never heard it happening. I don't know everything, but I haven't heard it happen. So tell us, what is fresh semen collection? Explain the process, and then what are the benefits of doing that?
I'm going to answer Dr. Young's question
go ahead.
right
Do that
quick.
first. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
So we found that obviously glycerol was the first cryoprotectant that was used to freeze embryos. They actually vitrified them in the very beginning, and then they went to glycerol, and then they went to ethylene glycol. We're finding that we see higher pregnancy rates with glycerol embryos, even though glycerol is a step down and a step up and a step down method as far as thawing them. They take more time. And so if you hear anybody talk about direct transfer embryos, they're frozen in ethylene glycol. If you hear them talk about 3-step, they're talking about glycerol. Personally, I would agree that we're going to stick with glycerol embryos and freeze them in glycerol and take more time in order to get a higher pregnancy rate. And so as far as the fresh semen, so we'll be doing a big project here at the end of the month, and that to give you an example, to do AI, or to get a pregnancy through an animal, it takes about 300 million sperm, live buck breeding, and this was research done through Australia. 300 million sperm, and we know that goats typically have a small concentration, a half to 1 milliliter in semen, and they usually, volume, and they have a high concentration, usually billions per milliliter, cc. So there's a lot of sperm. And so if we do laparoscopic AI with fresh semen, we need about 20 to 40 million sperm to get a pregnancy. Well, if we have a male that has a billion sperm in an ejaculate, if we could extend that, we could put it across a really big number of females in one day. Where he goes out and naturally breeds one, we might be able to breed 40 and have more than enough semen in one ejaculate. And so we're going to do this at the end of the month. We're going to do this several times this year. And basically, you're just trying to improve your efficiency, where, to me, if I had a goat herd, which we do and we did and we still do, and I want to get everything bred as soon as I can, all at the same time, because I know when I'm going to kid, I know I'm going to have better uniformity in my kid crop. And also, it's a time thing. You don't want these things stretching out over time. What if you could say, I'm done in a week? You can manage your labor better. Labor's a big thing, right? It is here. I know it's there with people and managing animals, and a uniform kid crop. And if we could hit 75 to 80%, which we have done very, very routinely, maybe even up to almost 90%, very routinely with fresh semen AI. If you could do 100 animals in one day and hit 85 of them get all pregnant on day one, that's pretty good success, and then turn your buck in afterwards to clean up. Turn him in, and in 21 days, if you catch the rest of them, that's fine. But that's pretty powerful, I think, to me, in getting stuff done and being efficient.
So
that's a game changer.
It is a game changer.
Because we're talking about efficiency and higher production annually if you can concentrate your breeding period or your kidding period, because those mothers can turn around and be back in production faster as a group than if you stretch it out over 3 weeks or a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Wow, that is like serious business right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, to be honest. It's not really. You think about it, and it's like we've got everything here that what we're doing. Uh, you just collect the semen fresh from the male that day with artificial vagina. Uh, excuse me. We have an extender that we use, and it's nothing special, and we just extend the volume to the number of does that we want to breed with, and you do the same process. I mean, it's really no big deal, but it's just another technique that you can use in order to advance your herd. And I guess that's the main thing I should have said at the beginning. There's a lot of reproductive technologies out there,
Mm-hmm.
but you need to figure out what tool and use them as what's going to benefit you the most. It may be AI with frozen semen. It may be doing embryo collection and transfer with your valuable animals. It may be you have a very high, big commercial herd that you want to get a lot of animals bred quickly. You want to do it this way. They're all tools. You need to pick which one you want to use that's going to benefit you the most.
Okay. So are you using that process on your farm? Did you say you're using that with your goat farm right now?
We do some. We use mainly frozen semen.
Okay.
We do more a little higher genetics. We use a little frozen genetics from different time periods. Use a lot of dead bucks, so we can't do that.
So that could be one of the I guess, to doing fresh semen collection. If you want to get high, if you want to upgrade your herd, you might want to get
Right,
something from outside. Okay.
right. So that would be you spend probably, instead of buying multiple sires over here, you may say, I really want this really high expensive buck from whatever country it is.
Mm-hmm.
Then you would bring him into the country, and then you would use him. That was how you need to use him. You do not need to turn him out with 100 does to breed him. You need to collect him and breed him that way, and use him and get him across them faster, because he can't breed 85 in one day.
No.
And you can breed him to 85 in one day, or however many this way. No problem.
Oh. So Howard is asking, how could a person get information on AI training with B&D?
So we have a website, bdgenetics.com. Feel free to contact us on there. Uh, I don't know if you guys, I don't know how to text it on here on the deal, but it's www.bdgenetics.com. Just as it says, I believe, as it came across the screen. And I'll be more than happy to talk to you guys. I'm getting a little bit better with the WhatsApp on being able to talk to people. So, but yeah, I'll be more than happy to assist you in any way. So,
Okay, so let's see. Charlton had a question here. So the best bet would be to purchase embryos from a superior female abroad, then implant this to embryos to our local herd. If a superior doe is produced, she could be super ovulated and transfer her embryos throughout your herd.
that's correct. That's correct. That's
Okay.
what a lot of people do. They buy full blood embryos they have in the past from certain genetic lines. They put them in. They're called recipients or surrogates, and they're everything here from commercial grade dairy goats to Spanish goats to boar crosses, and they're actually, the surrogates have no genetic ties. They have
Mhm.
no genetic ties to anything. They're literally just carrying the pregnancy. And then if you get superior what you think, or if you get quality enough out of that cross that you want, then yes, that's where you would need to build your program with doing the embryo collection and transfer.
Okay.
And that happens here in the United States all the time. That's what we do. And so,
So, guys, here's a website, www.bdgenetics.com. And you'll see David's wonderful picture on there, among other things. All right. So, the big question. What is your experience with exporting live animals, especially to Jamaica? And what are the different steps and processes involved? You might have touched on it a little bit, but it's definitely worth kind of coming back to that.
It's been a everything is a challenge, and it's not so much in a bad way. I don't want to say it that way, but you got to understand that when you deal with the government agencies, both so we are called the United States Department of Agriculture, the USDA, and I guess you have the Ag Ministry, is what you call the Ag Ministry there. And so sometimes dealing with the government can be very difficult as far as trying to understand the difference between what reality is and what officials say. And so, but I've had a pretty good relationship with Dr. Watson and with Dr. Martin, talking to them. Uh, and as I told you earlier, Miss Trudy, I can understand that the island is a little bit hesitant on bringing animals or bringing livestock into the country with fear of having an issue. But as I stated earlier, the United States here, the Department of Ag, we have to go through such rigorous testing before we can do anything that, it kind of secures everything for everybody. And so we're inspected on farm in quarantine and before, and then also prior to going on the plane, they're double inspected again. They go through so many veterinarians, it's unbelievable. And then the blood testing too that is involved, the disease testing is pretty rigorous. And so it's a pretty simple process. On the Jamaican end, obviously you have to apply for an import permit in order to do this. And once you get your import permit, you have a timeline, and then you just have to go from there. But we've pretty much been able to handle everything all the way up to the freight over there. Now, I personally don't do the freight, but we have the quarantine facilities. We have the access to trying to find whatever type of goat you want. You have to tell me what you want. I don't pick for you. I mean, you tell me what you're looking for, and then we bring them in. We do all the testing, the quarantine period, and then we ship them down to the actual facility that is approved to export them. So we more of the pre-isolation, and then to the export facility, and then they have to come to Jamaica via Caribbean Air out of Miami. And so that's the only place that we've been able to work with, and the only place that does go, as far as I'm under the understanding, through cargo. And but other than that, it does take time. This will not happen overnight. This would probably need to be, I thought we were going to get it done in a few months, but this might be, on the easy side of things, a 6-month project.
Wow.
If all goes well.
Okay. All right. So you're very familiar with the USDA side in the US, and you're very familiar with the Jamaican side, and you can meet both requirements. Is that our understanding?
Well, I mean, I know the requirements on the Jamaican side because we have to follow them here. Now, I do know that they have to go into quarantine. They come into Kingston, and so that's the only port of entry, I believe, for the livestock. If I'm not correct, I don't think they can go to Montego Bay. I think that on the permit, it says they have to come into Kingston. And I know that they have to go into quarantine for a minimum of 14 days. After that, I'm kind of out of the loop. So I'm hoping I'm able to come over sometime soon. And I need to go through the process on your end to fully understand everything. And once that happens, I think it can be pretty smooth. But the biggest thing is having these good working relationships with your ag ministry, with Dr. Watson and Dr. Martin. Those are the only two I know. I'm sure there's more, but those are the only two that I know. And so, and the same is here with me and having my working relationships, because we both rely on each other to get stuff done.
Okay. All right. Your audio is offering.
I gotta run, but I had to pop in to see this big iGoat chat tonight. But duty calls, so I will watch this when you guys are done. David, thank you for doing this.
Sir.
Appreciate it, and we will definitely talk and try to get you to Jamaica. That's the main objective. All right, sir.
Thank you so much.
Trudy, yo,
Yes.
you look good tonight.
Oh wow!
Guys,
Thank you, thank you. I
guys,
tried.
can you
I
guys
took my
give her a
monthly
fire
shower.
emoji? Can you guys give her a fire emoji? She's looking really good. All right. Okay, see
Bye.
you guys later. Bye.
All right. So, a lot of very, very good information. Does anybody else have any questions? I think we did really good answering the questions as
I
they
do
went
got a
along.
comment. I got a comment on this is Terrence Johnson.
Yeah.
And so he is correct. He is correct in that practice makes perfect.
Mm-hmm.
This does take time and skill, and it does take practice. And I tell that to my customers over here that I train. I can teach you how to do anything. You can teach me how to shoot a basketball, but if I don't ever pick the ball up again, I can't be good at it. And so he's 100% correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I mean that, like you said, that goes with everything.
It
So
goes with
apparently,
anything.
it goes with everything and anything. Because his other comment was that they did try embryo transfer here, and the results were miserable. I don't know if he knows if he okay. I was just trying to see if he knew the details of, not really the details, but could give us an idea why it was miserable. But I don't know what happened there. All right. Any other questions, guys? I know I learned a lot of information today, and it was great having you on. I want to see if anybody else has any other questions, because I know David has to go back to his conference. I don't want to hold him up too much. We do appreciate him taking time out of his busy schedule to hang out with us. So I'm trying to see here. And yeah, I think we went through everything. We had our notes down that we wanted to talk about. Yeah, let's see here. Anybody else? I just know the results, nothing of the methodology. Okay, Terrence is talking back about the embryo
Yeah.
transfer.
Well, there's so many factors that can cause a problem,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah. So we're getting a lot of very informative session from Howard. Thatchville Farm said this was very informative. Howard says he's going to be reaching out to you. So you might get a lot of calls from this now. You're going to be
I'm
very
here.
busy.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm here to help you guys. Obviously, like I said, we specialize in sheep and goats. I've had goats since I was 14,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm 35, and so we're kind of in it to win it deal, and we're here to help you in any way that we can.
What
So
breed goats do you have?
we had boar goats. We did have show boar goats. We actually had a lot of hair sheep too,
Mm-hmm.
and now we just have cross boar goat cross type stuff.
Okay, very
Yeah.
nice. That's kind of, we have a lot of that in Jamaica too. So Chelsea Best Farm says, "Give thanks, David. Many blessings." See, you're loved by the family. We were so happy to have you and Terrence. So Terrence is given. So thanks again, David, and thank you guys for joining us again. I want to make sure David gets back to his conference. I don't want to hog his time. You were amazing. I'm sure you will be hearing from many of us, or a couple of us, here in the very near future. So thanks again for your time. Guys, it was good to see you, and I will do better to be more available because things are shifting around for me. But anyway, you guys have a phenomenal evening. David, did you want to have any last comments before you go, or are you good?
I don't have any comments. I appreciate being able to talk to you.
All right. Thank you, guys. See you
Thank you.
next week. Thanks, David. Bye-bye.